Getting scammed sucks, and no matter how experienced of a traveler you are, it can happen to you. That's because travelers are coming up with sneakier and sneakier travel scams every day. And the only way to protect yourself from getting tricked is to learn from others and know what to look out for. Here are 5 dirty scams that I don't often hear people talking about, including a couple of crazy travel scams that other subscribers like you have shared in the comments of previous videos. You can't always trust reviews that you see on Agoda, Booking.com, or other hotel booking sites. That's because the hotel Switcharoo scam makes it impossible for travelers to leave bad reviews. This is when you book a hotel and show up only to realize that there was some sort of error in the system and they're actually fully booked. However, they do conveniently have a sister property just a couple blocks away where you can stay in a nicer room for the same price. When you accept, they cancel the booking that you made online. At this point, you're kind of vulnerable. They now have no incentive to provide good service for you because now that they canceled your booking, you can't leave them a review on the platform. It also means they have a free pass to try to overcharge or scam you when you're checking out because they're not worried about getting a bad review. And this can happen even if you don't switch hotels. If there is ever some sort of bug in the system that causes the reservation to get canceled, be wary of that place. The Switcharoo scam happened to us in Egypt 2 times in a row. After we caught on to this trick, we started noticing that the Google reviews for these hotels often had horror stories, whereas the reviews on the booking platforms were all positive. That's because the guests were still able to leave a negative review on Google, even though they could not leave a negative review on the booking platform. This scam is absolutely nuts and could turn dangerous if you're not prepared. It happened to a guy named Mike, who is the writer of a cool travel newsletter called The Daily Drop. He landed in the airport in Tunisia, ordered a Bolt to take him to his hotel, and the police stopped his taxi on the way. The police told him that the Bolt that he was in was not a real driver and made him switch to another taxi nearby. Since Mike was new to the country and the policeman seemed legit, he switched cars. Unfortunately, his new taxi driver flew right past his hotel and started driving him way out into the desert. Then he demanded that Mike hand over his money and possessions. Luckily, Mike had a trick up his sleeve. Not only had he registered his travels with the US State Department before leaving, but he also had a data plan on his phone and was sharing his location with a few trusted buddies. So as the taxi was barreling out into the desert, Mike rang up one of his buddies and told him to call the US Embassy and send them his location if the taxi driver didn't immediately turn around. Hearing this spooked the driver, who suddenly had a change of heart. Once Mike finally made it to his hotel, they told him that the police and taxi drivers worked together to run this sneaky scam. Apparently, it was more of an intimidation tactic than an actual threat. But without having a data plan on his phone to share his location and make the call, Mike would have been in a tough spot. Safety is just one of many reasons why I recommend loading up a travel eSIM onto your phone before you travel abroad. These are essentially digital SIM cards that you can add to your phone to stay connected abroad, so you don't have to hassle hunting down those tiny plastic physical SIM cards when you arrive to your destination in a different language. They just take a few minutes to set up. After testing 10 eSIMs over a total of 21 months across 5 countries, I found Olafly eSIMs to be the best option for heavy data users and decided to get them to sponsor this video. Olafly offers data plans in 170 plus regions. And unlike many other eSIM companies that focus on smaller data plans, Olafly offers unlimited data plans in over 100 of those regions. That makes it perfect for travelers who want to stay connected abroad without constantly monitoring their data usage or worrying about running out while they're out exploring. I've now used Olafly in 9 countries and counting, including way out in the Sahara Desert, and I'll link to my full Olafly review video below. And for an extra 5% discount on your eSIM, you can use the link in the description with discount code PROJECTUNTETHERED. My last scam video went viral thanks to all you awesome people that were kind enough to click the like button. In that video, I explained why it's helpful to take pics of restaurant menus. Or you can also do what one commenter named John recommends and just ask to keep the menu on your table and say that you might want to order more in the future. These types of precautions are wise in areas known for scams because sometimes restaurants will have two identical menus, but with different prices. And when it comes time to pay the bill, they'll just whip out the more expensive menu when you try to question the prices. Judging by the comments, it looks like we're not the only ones that this has happened to. But the menu isn't the only thing you might want a picture of. A viewer named William also left a really smart comment saying that it's also a good idea to snap a picture of your food itself. This isn't to show off your yummy food on Instagram. Rather, it's to have proof of what you ordered. That way, the restaurant can't get sneaky and try to add extra dishes onto your bill. And then, of course, try to play the language barrier card against you. By the way, if you have any good scam stories or tips, leave them in the comments below and I may give you a shout out in a future video. In fact, let's take a look at a different sneaky scam that nearly tricked another person that commented on our last video. They booked a cruise and chose to include the extra add-on insurance offered by the cruise line. But 10 minutes after booking, they received an email saying that their insurance package had been declined and that they needed to call into the cruise line to fix it. They were busy at the time and couldn't get around to calling, but later that week they realized that the cruise charge was still showing on their cruise line account. When they called the cruise line to see what was up, the company said that there had never been any problems with their insurance. And if he would have called the fake number on the email, he would have handed over his credit card information to scammers. This one is kind of similar to the TrixieBooking.com app scam that I explained in our last video. The first moral of the story is whenever you receive a message or an email asking you to verify sensitive information, never trust the links or phone numbers that are included in that message. Instead, go directly to the official website to find the trustworthy contact information where you can figure out what's going on. And the second moral of the story is to hit the subscribe button below so you can keep receiving videos like this to help you travel smarter. You probably already know that before renting a car or motorcycle or anything, you should document the condition you received it in with photos and video. This one's pretty obvious and it's to prevent rental companies for charging you for damage that was already there. But what most people forget to do is document the condition when you turn in the rental. This really isn't necessary when returning a car during business hours, but if you need to return it after hours, this is something you don't want to forget. That's because some rental companies have fine print that says you are responsible for damage, loss, or theft that happens in after hours from the time you leave the car to the time it gets inspected by an employee. This makes you vulnerable in several ways. There have been complaints of rental companies that accuse customers of damage that magically happens overnight. But in reality, the pictures that they send showing the damage are from a different vehicle of the same model. They can also easily say that the car was dirty, that you went over your mileage limit, or that you didn't fill up the gas tank. If you don't have anything to disprove these false claims, like photos of the odometer, the fuel gauge, or a receipt from a nearby gas station, then you're kind of in a tough spot. Apart from photos and videos, pay attention to how secure the parking lot looks. If it looks sketchy, you may want to adjust your travel plans so that you can return the car during normal business hours. To avoid falling for other sneaky scams, watch all the other videos in this travel scams playlist. It'll teach you exactly what to look out for to avoid getting duped out of your money while traveling. All right, guys, bye-bye.